Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So in the last few classes, we were discussing the Manomaya Kosha, the sheath of mind. So now, this 83rd verse will be concluding the discussion on Manomaya Kosha, the mental sheath. Just after discussing analytically on the Manomaya Kosha, that why all those discussions? By analytically studying all these sheaths, the Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya will be affirming to the fact that they are not the self. So through the negation, he will at last help us to get established in the self through reasoning. So the 5 layers of which the mental sheath constituted the third, the discussion on that is almost going to be concluded. Only in the last verse, as a conclusion, he will say that as we have discussed thoroughly, now we can conclude that it is not the self. So for that, he is giving some reasons. So what are that reasons? Based on the discussions which we already had. Manomaya na api bhavet paramatma adi antavatvat parinami bhavat dukkhatmakatvat vishayatva heta drashta hi drishyatmayataya na drishtah. So what it is saying? Manomaya na api bhavet paratma. So this mental sheath is not the Supreme Self. Na bhavet paratma. It is not the Supreme Self. Why? The reasons he is giving. The 4 reasons he is giving. First is adi antavatvat. So it has a beginning and it has an end. The self, we know, is beyond its existence cannot be annihilated by any phase of time, past, present, future. It is something which is trikal avadhita. That's what Satya is. So as we have seen in our discussion, that the mind has a beginning and has an end. So it cannot be the self. That's the first reason, adi antavatvat. Second is parinami bhavat. Even while it is existing, constantly it is changing. It is transforming. So that's why it cannot be the self, because the self has no parinama. It has no adi, it has no anta, it has no parinama. But the mind has parinama. What actually it indicates, we will discuss a little. First let us go through the verse, and then that why it has adi, why it has anta, why it has parinama, that already we have discussed. In conclusion, we will again bring those points to understand that why in this verse it is being indicated that it has neither, it is having a beginning, it has an end, it is transforming. So these are the 2 reasons has been cited in this first line. The other 2 reasons will be spoken of in the next line. The third reason is dukkhatmakatvat, that it is by nature it's suffering. Self is Sat Chit Ananda Swarup. It is bliss. But mind results only in dukkha. That no happiness can be found in mind. As long as the mind exists, it is full of suffering. It's by nature itself is suffering. That's why it is called dukkha atmakatvat. Atma means one's essence. So in essence it is dukkha. Dukkha atmakatvat. So it, by very essence, it entails in suffering. So dukkhatmakatvat. Vishayatva heta. Vishayatva means like any other object, I can observe my mind. Someone as if is there beyond my mind, observing the activities of the mind. So it is Vishaya. So Vishayatva heta. So anything which is Vishaya, it cannot be the self. That's the reason given in the last phrase of this verse. What is that? Drashya, drashta hi drishyatmaya na drishta. So the drashta can never be the drishta. Drashta hi drishyatmataya na drishta. The one who is the drashta, the seer. So it can never be the seen. So these are the 4 reasons which has been spoken of by Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya to establish his opinion about the mental sheath as not the self. So now let us discuss a bit that why it has been called Adi Antavatvat, that it has a beginning and it has an end. As when we were discussing in this various verses, we found that mind ceased to exist in deep sleep. In dream state, it is there. In wakeful state, of course it is there. But in deep sleep, it ceases to exist. So that's why it extinction in deep sleep, and again it arises in the waking state, or even from deep sleep, if you are going to the dream state, again it arises in the dream state. So it arises in the waking state and in the dream state, and it ceases to exist in the deep sleep state. As we give that example to understand that how that the mind is like, it is like a classroom where the teacher is instructing the students, and what is going on in the classroom is being observed as through a surveillance camera by the principal in his office. So the principal is the witness. So when the class is going on, is running, what constitutes the mind? The teacher and the student. The teacher is the conscious mind, the forebrain. All the activities in the forebrain speaks of the conscious mind. And the hindbrain, where all the samskaras, they are also the part of the mind. They are all there. All these various samskaras, they are like the student sitting. Now when the teacher is there in the classroom, in the waking state, both this portion of the mind, the subconscious as well as the conscious mind, are active. So the working of the subconscious mind is monitored by the conscious mind, and that makes our day-to-day dealing coherent with others. Because as the conscious mind is there to monitor the subconscious mind, so we all relate to this world with the help of consensus reality. That all relate to the world with consent. Because after all, it is the mind which is projecting the universe. But in the waking state, all the minds are projecting the universe in the same fashion. Because the conscious mind is there to monitor over the subconscious mind. So in the waking state, both the conscious and the subconscious mind are active. In the dream state is what the dream state is like. The teacher has left the classroom, but the students are still in their class. They are waiting for the next teacher to come, and as there is no one to observe them in this between these two periods, the headmaster observes that there is a chaos in the classroom. The students are all jumping, they are just moving out from their seat. No one is sitting in the proper place. They are all moving around, this jumping, having fun, and frolic. So that's the thing, the chaos, as we see in the dream state. That as we give that example, that in the wakeful state, in the waking state, we have never seen a golden mountain. In our mind, the idea of gold is there. Even the idea of mountain is there. But as there is no golden mountain, these two ideas to coalesce, to come together is never possible. Because the conscious mind is monitoring the subconscious mind. Though all those ideas are there. In the dream state, the teacher has gone. The conscious mind is inactive. But the subconscious mind is active with all its sublateral impressions with all its samskaras. And now they are jumping, having frolicking without any monitor. So in the dream, I can of course see a golden mountain. Why? The idea of gold mixed up with the idea of the mountain, and it has created a golden mountain. So it's all chaos. And what is the deep sleep like? The same headmaster, the principal, is observing through the surveillance camera when this final bell of the school has rang. All the students came out of the classroom. The teacher also is not there, student is also not there, the empty classroom. So the mind actually is constituted of the subconscious and the conscious vrittis. None of them are there. So you are just seeing that empty classroom. So that's the idea that abhava pratyaya, alambana, vritti, nidra. In Yoga Sutra we say. So it's abhava, there's absence. That's what the witness is observing. So now we will understand when we say that the mind ceased to exist in deep sleep, that all the components of the mind, the teachers as well as the students, the conscious as well as the subconscious mind, both are absent. In the dream state, subconscious mind is active, but the conscious mind is inactive. So part of the mind is still active. And in the wakeful state, in the waking state, both the subconscious as well as the conscious mind are active. So that's why we find that it is going through this constant change. Sometimes it exists, sometimes it doesn't exist. So it cannot be the self. The self is something which is trikal avadhita, whose existence is not interrupted by any phase of time, past, present and future. It is always there, eternal, without any transformation. So as the mind ceases to exist and again comes to existence, so it cannot be the self. That's the first reason. And then the second reason is, it is parinami bhavat, that even while it is existing, constantly there is parinama, transformation. As we see, the mind cannot exist in one thought. Constantly it is jumping from thought to thought. And with the change of thought, not only thought, our feelings, our emotions, our desires, our resolutions, everything is changing constantly. So this mind, as long as it is existing, it is constantly going through that transformation. Thus for the self, there is no transformation. It is as if in the eternal present. Why we say that the self is beyond time? Because time, the concept of time comes only when there is transformation. Something transforms from one form to other, then only the question of time comes. That it was like this, it at present has become like this, in future it will become something like that. If everything is in eternal present, the concept of time falls off, collapses. So the eternal self, the ultimate self, is in eternal present without any transformation. But when the mind, we find, is constantly transforming. So because of its desires, resolutions, feelings, emotions, it is constantly, we find, is transforming. So it cannot be the self. The second reason, dukkhatmakatvat. This is, the mind is by nature itself dukkha. You may say, how come? Yes, we do feel rejected, we do feel misery, suffer, but we have exaltation. We do enjoy everything with the mind. So here again, we will find that very nicely analytically it has been stated that mind never gives us happiness. When we feel happiness, in two situations, in deep sleep we are happy, that anyone who comes up from the deep sleep, what he says, oh, it was so relaxing, I had such a nice sleep. And when we are happy, when any desire is fulfilled, then we find happiness. In both the instances, the mind ceases to exist. For the time being, it ceases to exist. And then only you feel happiness. That when in the deep sleep the mind doesn't exist and we feel happy, that we need not discuss. Because just now we discussed the idea that in deep sleep the mind doesn't exist. And then the deep sleep is highly relaxing. That it is something which speaks of bliss. It is all it is a subjective experience for each and every individual. So we need not have to explain that in deep sleep we enjoy bliss where the mind ceases to exist. But what about when the desire is fulfilled? The joy which comes from the fulfillment of the desire. So there also mind ceases to exist. That when the desire is there, it speaks of the working of the mind. Like waves, the mind is again and again breaking into those resolutions. I want this, I want this. The moment the desire is fulfilled, for the time being, the wave subsides. The mind which was full of these vrittis, they subside for the time being, and then only we feel happiness. So, if we really try to find out the nature of happiness, we find whenever the mind is existing, it is present, it never gives us happiness. Only when it ceases to exist, then we have the happiness. As we told, and from where that happiness comes? From the self. It is the self which percolates through the mind to give us bliss. When the mind is not having waves, so the mind is not existing. So the mind is the vrittis. As long as the vrittis are there, the mind is there. Not only the vrittis, vritti along with pratyaya, means the content of the wave. When the wave and the content of wave, these two together constitute the mind. So when they don't, for the fall off for the some time, then the mind ceases to exist. And we find all the happiness comes from that let go. Any let go situation speaks of the falling off of the mind. That let go ensues, and then we enjoy the bliss. So the mind itself is like a baggage. As we give that example again and again, that why in meditation we feel that happiness, if we really have a effective meditation. The reason is, for the time being, the mind falls off. That sometimes we don't realize that mind is dukkha. Always it is. You may say, no, maybe I'm not enjoying, I'm not happy, but I'm not suffering. I'm just quite at ease with myself. But what has happened? We have become so much habituated by that to stay with the mind. Sometimes we don't realize that it is like a weight always hanging on us. To give an example, suppose you have went out for a trekking and you have that backpack with you. So if you are walking for a long time, trekking for a long time, as the backpack is with you for a long time, though you are exhausted, though you are strained, you don't realize that it is the backpack which is causing the strain. And someone who is accompanying, he says, oh, you're so tired, why not you sit down and keep the backpack just by your side. And then I put the backpack just by my side, and immediately I feel, oh, I'm so relaxed. That the cause of suffering was the bag, but I was carrying it for such a long time that I became habituated with it. I never felt that it is the cause of suffering. That's what happens with us. The mind is always with us. That it is like a weight hanging on us. We don't realize because we got so much habituated by it. But whenever momentarily it falls off, immediately that bliss comes forth. So that speaks of what? That mind by nature is like a weight, which is constantly is the cause of stress, dukkhatmakatvat. So as it is the cause of dukkha, it cannot be the self, because the self by nature is bliss. Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. It is by nature bliss. But again, we should always remember that when we say the self is bliss, it's not the happiness which we find in exhilaration. It's in our day-to-day life. It is speaking of that type of happiness. In our life, the happiness speaks of polarity. I am suffering. The next moment my desire is fulfilled. I feel that happiness. The joy which speaks of excitement. It's not like that. What it is actually speaks of prashanti, tranquility. It is a happiness which is not because of the tintillation of the nerves. It speaks of the tranquility of our chitta. So because of the titillation of the nerves we find happiness, the same reason that when we are excited for some reason, that we are going to achieve certain thing, that these are my plans, I'm going to achieve, that causes the excitement. So the happiness which we feel is not actually the happiness. It is actually an anticipation. Oh, the happiness is waiting for me. From that anticipation, I feel that happiness which is not the true happiness. The true happiness is on the fulfillment of the desire. Before that, the exhilaration which we feel, if you really try to find out, the mind is constantly anticipating. Oh, I'm going to get the happiness. The moment the delicacy I enjoy, I'm going to get the happiness. And that anticipation is giving you that excitement. As such, the desires can never give us happiness. The anticipation keeps a false alarm of happiness. Because I'm anticipating. The moment the desire is fulfilled, I will get happiness. The happiness comes from the bliss within. So that's why we find that through all sorts of analysis, it can be concluded that mind can never be the cause of bliss. It is dukkhatmakatvat. So this is the third reason. And the last reason is vishayatva hetuh. Vishayatva. It is something which can be objectified. The objectification is speaks of vishayatva hetu. Hetu means the cause. So when I am suffering, I know I am suffering. When I am seeing, I know I am seeing. All the five perceptions through the mind, whatever I am perceiving, whatever I am feeling, whatever may be my emotions, whatever may be my thought, someone behind is as if sitting and is observing that. So the mind is something which can be observed. That's what the Kena Upanishad starts with. Kene shitang preshitang patati. That who is there, who is directing the mind, beyond the mind, sitting and as if directing the mind. Preshitang. Preshitang means to direct. So someone is there as if behind the mind. So I can see the mind. So that is what is called Vishayatva. It is objectified. And in this life, that it cannot be the self, because we know what's the reason? Because drashta can never be the drishta. That's the reason which has been spoken of here. Just that example which we give from Drik Drishya Viveka. That when I see with my eyes, what's happening? With the eyes I see everything, but with the eyes I cannot see the eye itself. To know about the existence of my eyes, I have to go behind the eyes. All the things which I see through the eyes is perceived through the mind. So it is the mind who is the seer and the eyes become the seen. So you have to go still back. Whatever I am seeing, I know I am seeing. I am thinking, I am feeling. So someone is there who is again observing the mind. So the mind cannot be the seer. Then who is the seer? The one who is the seer cannot never be seen. The moment it is seen, it ceases to be the seer. As the mind can be seen, so it cannot be the seer. So very nicely we will find that Shankaracharya, Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is concluding that the Manomaya Kosha cannot be the self because of these four reasons. Adi Antavatvat, Parinami Bhavat, Dukkhatmakatvat, and last is Vishayatva Hetu. So after this, to the next verse, we'll enter into the discussion of the knowledge shit, the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So this is quite a long discussion from 184th verse to the 206th verse. And the discussion on the Vijnanamaya Kosha will continue. But today we will take two verses which speaks of the constituents, the constituents which constitute the Vijnanamaya Kosha. That what constitutes the Vijnanamaya Kosha. With that the discussion starts. The 184th verse speaks of the constituents of the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So what are they? Buddhi, Indriyai, Sardha, Savritti, Kartrilakshana Vijnanamaya Kosha Syat Pungsa Sangsara Karanam. So, these are the three things which constitute the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Of them, one is common for both the Manomaya as well as the Vijnanamaya Kosha. What is the common thing? It is the organ of perception. That will be spoken of it. This Buddhi Indriyai Sardha. The Buddhi along with the organs of perception. The Buddhi with its organ of knowledge, organs of perception. That's what's meant by Buddhi Indriyai Sardha, along with Indriya. So the Buddhi and the Indriya constitutes the Vijnanamaya, not only these two, something else. And what? Savritti Kartri Lakshana. And its action having the characteristic of agent. We will come to the discussion. Savritti Kartri Lakshana. So there are two vrittis. One is Jnana Vritti and another is Ahankara Vritti. These two has to come together to result in action. Just Jnana Vritti doesn't result in action. So all the actions with the sense that I am acting, that I am the agency, I am the one who is acting. For all the actions with the sense of agency is possible when all these three, what are the three? This ego, ahankara, the organs of perception or the organs of knowledge, and the buddhi. These all come together, and these are the three things which constitutes the Vijnanamaya Kosha. This Vijnanamaya Kosha Syat, and this Kosha results in transmigration. Pungsa Sangsara Karanam. Now, what actually it is saying? Let us try to find out. They have Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya have mentioned about the constituent. But how these constituents really constitute the Vijnanamaya Kosha, that we have to understand. That as we told, that the organs of perception is common for both the Manomaya as well as the Vijnanamaya Kosha. What happens? So now, as we told, that let us take that example again, that when I am observing a red flower, what is happening? That the color is perceived in one center. Actually, not the color is not perceived. Color is projected, as we told again and again. The light waves fall on my eyes. The function of light stops there. The moment the light touches the retina, it gets converted into nerve current. It reaches the so-called color perception center. In the color perception center, that's the real organ. These in Sanskrit are called golakas, apparatus. These are not the organs of perception. So we will be just doing a mistake if we think that eyes means this external eyes. No. The center of perception in our mind is the real organ of perception. Not these are all golakas, just the apparatus through which the perception is happening, but they are not the organ of perception. So organ of perception is in the mind. So in the mind, so what is happening? That all ideas of all the color is lying dormant in the organ of this other color perception. In the center of perceiving color, their ideas of all, the notions of all the colors are dormant. When this particular specific nerve current reaches there with particular modulation, among all those, only the red color is activated and projected. So this is the function of the mind. The mind, along with the help of the organs of perception, is projecting the color. But these are all piecemeal perceptions. What is the piecemeal perception? That in the center of color, only the color is perceived. But when I am seeing the flower, it is not only the color. I see the color, its shape, I have smell its fragrance. If I touch, I can feel its texture. All the thing together constitutes the flower. What mind is doing, it is throwing all the piecemeal perceptions. The red color, its shape, its texture, its fragrance, these are all piecemeal perceptions. And these piecemeal perceptions are carried to the search engine. Just in the computer, like in the search, there is a search engine. So you can, in the Google, you can go and search. They all are given this color and this type of shape and this fragrance and this type of touch, softness, or whatever it may be. This all, what actually it is. So they are all conglomerate and given in the search engine. That's the buddhi. And now from the depth of the buddhi again, see, in the mind, in the dormant state, all the piecemeal perceptions, the ideas of the piecemeal perceptions are there. But in the buddhi, the dormant buddhi, all these piecemeal perceptions are taken together, coalesced and given to the buddhi. Now in the buddhi, the idea of the whole is there dormant. Oh, these all piecemeal perceptions together. This is the rose, red rose. So this idea, the red rose, that's again dormant in the buddhi, the determinative faculty. The mind gives all these piecemeal perceptions, tanmatras, to the search engine called buddhi, and the buddhi then projects. It has the idea of so many wholesome, of all the bhutas, determinants, which gives a distinct knowledge that this is dog, this is cow, this is spot, all these objects of name and form. These are again dormant in the so-called the buddhi. So from there, when all these piecemeal perceptions are taken together in the search engine, from there the idea comes. Oh, these all constitutes the red rose. So now you will understand that why all the organs of perception is common for both the mana as well as the buddhi. So the mana, the organs of perception, they are the common, through which the mana is throwing out the piecemeal perceptions, and again these piecemeal perceptions, which is projected by the organs of perception, has to be thrown to the search engine of the buddhi to get the idea of the wholesome thing, the red flower. So now this creates a vritti. That's the vritti, jnana vritti. That yes, that now each and every vritti of my mind, what's the content of it? The entire red rose. That's what I am now seeing. So as we say again and again, this what I see is the conglomeration of all these piecemeal perceptions. That's why we will be just doing a mistake if I think that tanmatras mean that's subatomic particles. No. It is the piecemeal perceptions. It's not that the outside bhuta subatomic particles are the tanmatras. Tat matra, only that piecemeal perception is the function of the mind. But to convert it into, transform it into bhuta, this panchikrita, to all the 5 types of piecemeal perceptions. This is the broad piecemeal perceptions are the 5, because we have 5 sense organs. What I see, what I hear, what I smell, what I taste, and what I touch. So all these becomes panchikrita. And that's this panchikrita is done by the search engine called buddhi to give the jnana vritti, the knowledge. This is a red flower. But that knowledge itself is not sufficient. Now, with that, the ahankara vritti also has to come together. Then only the reaction comes. Just in a camera, when you are taking the photo of a red flower, you just get the picture of the red flower. Does the camera react in any way? No. But we react. Why? Because there's an ahankara vritti. That now is interacting with the jnana vritti to result in action. As per our samskaras, seeing that red flower, who is saying, I am seeing. Now, oh, I am a devotee. I have to offer this flower to the divine. So as per my temperament, which is again based on that ego, this ego is now interacting with the jnana vritti, resulting in action as per my temperament and samskaras. It is happening that way. So now, what are the things which constitutes the Vijnanamaya Kosha? Ultimately, which is giving me a definite direction, a definite knowledge, and based on the definite knowledge, a definite direction. That's why this buddhi is called Nishchayatmika. Of all those notions, one particular notion has been developed. Yes, this is this. And this is a thing as per my own preference is concerned, I react to it in this way. And this constitutes our life, constantly we are interacting. And the moment my ahankara vritti is interacting with the jnana vritti, it results in kleshas. As in the Yoga Shastra has spoken of klesha. What is a klesha? Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. That whenever ahankara vritti interacts with the jnana vritti, the three kleshas, that finds expression through our life. Either it is raga, or it is dvesha, or it is abhinivesha. That ahankara, my ego, is interacting with the thing which I have seen, whether it is favorable for my existence, or is it harmful for my existence. So based on that, the raga, attachment, or fight and flight response. Dvesha, abhinivesha, all this develops. And that results in all the actions. And now all these actions which are motivated by all our likings and dislikings, these are the cause of our repeated birth. They are becoming samskara. This constitutes the vasanas. That constitutes our so-called personality. And that is the cause of our transmigration. Just the jnana is not the cause of our transmigration. When I am seeing the table, I don't react to it. It gives just the knowledge. But when I see food, immediately I react to it. I feel like having it. Now, as per my temperament, if I go on taking junk food, it will affect my health. Just you will find now that how it is affecting me. But if I am of that temperament, that I am quite disciplined, that food, yes, that is the thing I have to take recourse to, I have to eat. Otherwise, I cannot sustain. But I always go for a balanced diet. It will have a particular result as per your health is concerned. Karma, karma, phala. And this karma, karma, phala is the cause of our transmigration. So now you will find it is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which at last gives a sense of agency. And from that comes, from the sense of agency, what the next thing follows is all the actions, and from the actions again it results in transmigration. So this is the idea which has been spoken of here in this verse. And so after saying that, what we will find, that the three things constitute the Vijnanamaya Kosha. The buddhi, the organs of perception, this the eyes, the ears, the tongue, the smell, the nose, and the skin. So these 5 organs of perception, and your buddhi, and the ahankara vritti, the ego, which is because of which the ahankara vritti is constantly is there in our mind. So these 3 constitutes the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So now we will try to understand the verse word by word. That is the overall idea from this verse. That's what's the buddhi indriyai sardhang. So buddhi along with the indriya. This results in the jnana vritti. And that now interacts with the ahankara vritti. From where the ahankara vritti comes? From the kartri lakshana. That constantly some from within, that ahankara, that I am this body-mind complex, this another vritti is coming. We can understand this even with the help of this modern neurology. Very interesting. There in a psychopath, there is a mental condition where we find some persons are called psychopaths, where emotion doesn't work. Emotion doesn't work. So, why it happens? That suddenly, one day, a morning, a person gets up and says, looking at his mother, "You look like my mother, but you are not my mother. You are an imposter." And the family gets just highly worried. They take him to the doctor, and the doctor says that he has developed some mental aberration. What's the aberration? Very interesting. See, it's not only that all the perceptions conglomerate to give us the sense that this is a flower, this is a car, whatever I'm seeing. So many piecemeal perceptions are conglomerating. Not only that, along with that, our emotions also conglomerate. That we have emotions. When I see my house, immediately a wonderful sense comes. It may not be a very beautiful house. It's just an humble, ordinary cottage. But by seeing that, immediately I feel happy, elated. Oh, it's my house. It's my relations. So what's happening with all the perceptions which are coalescing, along with that, your emotion is also coalescing. To give you a sense, that's all happening within the mind. To give you a sense, this is my house, this is my relative. Now, if it so happens in the mind, so that's why we say that if you study the modern neurology, you will find that this, in Vedanta, what they have discussed was something wonderful. This ahankara vritti, which results in the emotion, that somehow is not coalescing. So the perceptions are perfect, but the emotion doesn't work. As a result, what happens is these persons can be highly intelligent. Why, As the emotions are not working, so they can see everything without any emotions perfectly. To give an example, that Sri Ramakrishna says that two persons are playing chess, the third one is observing. You will always find the one who is observing is saying the correct move, because he has nothing to do with winning and losing. He has no expectation to win. He has no fear of losing. So he's just observing. His vision is perfect. So sometimes it has been found that the crimes done by the psychopath is very difficult to find out. They do it in a very meticulous way because no emotion is working. So that's only the mind with full intelligence is working. So why we are just bringing this discussion? That's to say that even in our day-to-day life, with the help of neurology, we will find is the idea of coalescing of so many piecemeal perceptions along with the ahankara vritti come into picture to make us a normal human being. Otherwise, we won't be relating to the world with the consensus reality. The normal, what's the idea of normal? We all are hallucinating. The mind is resulting in hallucination. But we all are hallucinating the same way. It is just like democracy. In a democracy, the majority is the thing which speaks of the power, the vote, who is going to govern, the majority. So here also, most of the people say, when I see a red flower, that this is red, most of the people is saying red, so all have given the vote as red, so it is red flower. If a colorblind doesn't see it with the proper color, I say he is having defect. Actually, he has also done the same thing as me. I have projected the red color. The red color is not there. This person also has projected some different color. That color is not there. But as majority have projected that red color, so that gives the consensus reality. All give the just say that all agree. That's the consensus. That all agree. Yes, this is red. So now it is even in neurology. If you go to a doctor, a neurologist, their language is different. They never say that he is abnormal. He will never say. He will say he is a bit different. That he is not just the same as others. He is a bit different. So why we are bringing this discussion? To understand this idea of this coalescing of these various piecemeal perceptions to create the jnana vritti. And then also it is not over. It has to coalesce again with the ahankara vritti. Then that emotional factor comes into being. That becomes the motivation for our actions. And as per the actions we are doing, as per our motivation, it creates definite results. And that again results in transmigration. So Vijnanamaya Kosha Syat Savritti Kartri Lakshana speaks of that ahankara vritti. Buddhi Indriyai Sardhan speaks of jnana vritti. These two comes together to make the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is the cause of samsara for each and every individual. Pungsa samsara karana. So nicely, it has been, very nicely. If you read the sloka, sometimes you may find that what it's speaking, we don't understand. That's why this discussion is required. Then you go through a discussion, take the help of even this modern neurology, psychology. You'll find it's a wonderful description has been given thousands of years back. So that's what is the Vijnanamaya Kosha. And the next sloka also is discussing about the constituent. That again, this is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, but it is something inert unless it is get activated by the conscious principle. It is all these koshas are like the hard disk of the computer. That so much of this work is going, we do through the computer. We create a world of virtual reality. But is it possible unless you plug in the computer with the mains? Impossible. So this hard disk is inert unless it is activated by that the bias voltage. Here also I'm just giving that example to understand that unless this Vijnanamaya Kosha comes in association with the ultimate conscious principle, it can never become active. So in its association it becomes active. Then the question of duality comes. Oh, then Vijnanamaya Kosha is something different from the self. Here again they will say no. Because of ignorance, the self itself first projects as the mind, as the buddhi. Then again it projects as the world. Just to give an example, in the moonlit night, in the full moonlit night, if I sing the moon, I think, oh, it is the moon which is giving me light. I am deluded. It is actually the sun which has illumined the moon. In turn, the moon has illuminated the earth, isn't it? Similarly, the first projection happens, the self first is projected as this buddhi and the other koshas, this like the mind, and that in turn is projected as the world. So here also the duality is denied by saying, it will be said in this sloka, just we are giving an idea, overall idea of the sloka before we enter into the discussion, that it is this, the consciousness in its association, the Vijnanamaya Kosha becomes lighted, but we shouldn't think that Vijnanamaya Kosha is something separate from the self. It is the self which is being projected as the Vijnanamaya Kosha, and then in its association it starts working. So this, then how it works? Jnana, Kriyavan, Aham, Iti. See these three things. In the last verse we have understood as Jnana. Because of its working, the knowledge that the red flower, that knowledge came. Kriyavan. And as per my temperament, as I told, that I may pluck the flower and offer it to the divine, or if I am not a devotee but I like to decorate my house, I may pluck the flower and prepare a beautiful vase and keep it in my living space. Or if I like the garden, I won't pluck the flower. One flower has came, it inspires me, let me take care of the plant in a much better way so I can get many flowers. So we find different types of actions coming from whom? From again, because of my temperament. And all this kriya from where it generates? Aham iti ajasram dehendriyashu abhimanyate bhrisham. This aham, this ego, by connecting to the deha and the indriya, as per my temperament, various type of motivations are created. That aham is creating all those kriya, the action. So jnana, kriya, aham. So these three, this from the jnana vritti and the ahankara vritti, this together comes to create the kriya vritti, the kriya. So these three comes from where? Because of the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So that's the thing which will be spoken of in the 85th verse, with which the constituents of the discussion on the constituents of the Vijnanamaya Kosha will be concluded. And then we will of course come to some other aspects of the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So what's the 150th verse saying? Anuvrajat. Anuvrajat means to go along with. Anuvraja. Braja means to walk. Anuvraja means to, as if to walk along with. Anuvrajat chit prativimba shaktihi. So this Vijnanamaya Kosha is always in association with chit prativimba. The Chetana, the ultimate conscious principle, is being reflected in the buddhi, prativimba. Then only it becomes active. This chit, prativimba and shakti. From this reflection, it gets its energy. Shakti, vijnana sanga prakrite vikaraha. So, it is a modification of Prakriti. So that's the thing. It is actually denying the duality. That because of Prakriti means avidya, ignorance in Vedanta. Prakriti. Because of ignorance, it is the same self which is being projected as this Vijnanamaya Kosha. So that's why it is a modification of avidya, of Prakriti. So Prakriti Vikara. It is a Vikara of Prakriti. And it is characterized by knowledge and action. Jnana Kriyavan. And always, Ajasrang means always. Always it identifies itself with the body and the organs to create the sense of ego, aham. Aham iti Ajasrang Dehindriyashu Abhimanyate Brisham. So that's what constitutes the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So you'll find that it's very difficult to deny any of these ideas of these koshas. We may say, oh, from this old standpoint, in the ages ago, from their standpoint, they have discussed something which doesn't make any sense. Actually, the terminologies which has been used, we don't use them now. That's why there is a gap of understanding. If you really try to understand the terms which has been used from the present context, you will find it's a wonderful analysis has been done. And what this Vijnanamaya Kosha is. So this all is what constitutes the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Now the idea of agency, that how this idea of agency develops of this in the Vijnanamaya Kosha, this resulting in all the actions. Kriya means Kriyavatvam. I am one who has a sense of agency, that I am the Karta of all the actions. This sense of this Karta is because of the Vijnanamaya Kosha. How it develops, this sense of agency because of Vijnanamaya Kosha, will be again explained in the next two verses, which we will take up again in the next class. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.